Now this might turn out to be a very heavy hitter in terms of quality this anime season, and we are of course talking about Wistoria Wand and Sword, and in this one we will be going over episode 1. Now I was somewhat optimistic about this show as I saw a few trailers, teasers and whatnot, and it did look pretty good animation wise, and the story seemed very decent. And with episode 1, I have to say that my expectations were definitely met and overdone to a decent extent as well, especially in the animation department and especially in the ending fight scene, as that was borderline movie quality, I have to say. First of all though, let us start a bit with the premise here and the story and the world we are set in. So Wistoria, seemingly, is a world where magic reigns supreme. Everything seems to really be about magic. Now, I don't really know if there are other countries in this world, but it doesn't really seem like it. So we just have this entire world purely based on magic and the advancement of magic and just attaining magic and being a mage, and ideally, for any human achieving this, Magia Verdia, I think the name is, like a sort of high mage, whatever you want to call it, that gets the privilege of living in this massive tower that protects the sky. Because apparently, some mages, way back in the day, set up some sort of seal to bring the sky back to the people because it was covered in miasma or something of the like from evil beings, etc. But yes, from the very start in this show, you really get it hammered in that, hey, magic is everything in this world. And of course, for our main character Will, who doesn't have any magic, well, he is struggling. He even gets brought to the front of the class by this somewhat elitist teacher that is extremely prideful regarding magic and has a lot of things against Will because he can't use magic, and basically humiliates him in front of the entire class as he can't use a single super basic spell. And that is, of course, even further enhanced by Sion, the main antagonist classmate character, which we will get into later. Now, I do like how the world is set. It seems to be going for a somewhat British Victorian feel to the design of the clothing and like the music and the sort of general feeling of how the world is, which I can definitely appreciate. And I like how they, again, just really hammer in that, hey, in this country, in this world, magic is everything. Like, you get esteem, you get honor, you get accolades and everything if you can use magic. If you can't use magic, well, you're sort of treated like dirt. You're a second-class citizen. You're sort of less than nothing, really. And that is, of course, what our main character has to try to overcome, because his goal is to become one of these Magia Verdia? Vadia? Words, dude. Magic words. This title granted to the strongest mages that get to live in the tower, because his childhood friend already is one and he made a promise to her, etc. You know the drill with childhood friends and promises. But yes, this sort of hyper-focus on magic and how valuable it is really shown through the teacher Edward at the start, with how he sort of ridicules Will for not being able to use magic and how it's sort of a disgrace to have him in this magic academy when he can't even use magic at all. And as he explains it, which does make sense, that hey, in this world, magic is everything. It's power, it's authority, and without it, well, you have nothing. I do also like the premise in general they are going for. While it's far from being super new, it's still enjoyable, with the premise being that, hey, our main character here is in a world, in a setting where he isn't really accepted for who he is because of something that is out of his control, but he still pushes through, does everything he possibly can to just prove the naysayers wrong, to achieve something no matter how much opposition he gets, and getting that sort of entire journey and forcing himself through that entire journey. And that's something a lot of people will end up, cheering for, right? And feeling with the main character, because many people have probably had things they've been told to let go of in the past, in real life, etc. And they can draw parallels to themselves in certain situations in a story like this and find it enjoyable. Anyhow, though, in general here, due to the world they have created and how they've made it, like, the world feels very distinct and immersive. The music feels fitting, the animation feels somewhat unique, the character designs feels somewhat unique, and the world just feels vibrant and alive in general, and it does help you feel very immersed, at least it did for me, which is a very good sign in a sort of anime like this. My biggest criticism, though, this episode isn't anything major, but it is when this other teacher, Wagner, whatever his name is, has this exposition dump, kind of, to our main character about how this ascension system works in terms of him getting to the, secondary class before being able to maybe eventually get to the tower, to be this Magia Verdia. But this information should be something Will knows very well. It should be something he painfully knows very, very well. Not something that needs to be explained to him again. But I guess it is explained through the tone of, this guy doesn't listen, so I'll just repeat myself again for the 100th time. Maybe he'll get it through his head eventually. But it does feel a bit contrived and something that is just there because, of course, as a viewer, we need this information. It's good information for us. But in universe, it doesn't make a lot of sense why he would take the time to explain it to Will again. Especially as he is a 6th year in this universe. Of course, Will does dream of becoming this Magia Verdia, as said, and wants to advance to this next level to be closer to that point and being closer to his childhood friend. But he needs like a lot of points to advance to that tier. And because a third of the points are limited to spell work or like spell usage, I suppose, that means he has an entire section that is off limits to him. So gaining credits or points, whatever you want to call it, to get to that next level is extremely hard as he only can get credits through, I guess, written exams and knowledge and also dungeon exploring, which is apparently also a thing here because dungeons have to be in most anime nowadays. Though, as far as I understood, this is from the creator of Danmachi, so if that is the case, then I definitely understand why we have a dungeon in this one as well. And he gets credits for defeating monsters in the dungeon. And he seems to also be one of the only people that really explores the dungeon, as it is a very dangerous place, as we see later in the episode. As a whole, though, I do like some of the thematic undertones this anime is going for in terms of overcoming adversity, right? That no matter your birth status and beginnings, you can still just push through and try to attain your dreams and goals, no matter your circumstances. Those are all nice and good things, right? That people generally like to see and root for in any sort of media. Now, if you've gotten this far in the video, do please remember to like and subscribe as it greatly helps out the channel, so thank you, thank you. Now, I want to talk a bit about the characters. Mainly our main character Will, of course, but also the rest of the cast we've been introduced to so far. So Will wants to become this Magia Vardia, whatever, this high-end mage. This title bestowed only upon the most powerful mages, etc. in this world. And the reason he wants to do this, even though he can't use magic, is because he made this childhood promise with his childhood friend, Elfie, I believe her name is, who is already a Magia Verdia. Apparently the youngest one in history, because of her innate talent and power in magic, I suppose. Even though they both came from the same orphanage, etc. Now, as can be expected, we see Will being bullied and facing adversity from everyone, really, in the school, teachers and students alike. Except for Colette, who is this noble lady, classmate, who seems to be Will's friend. Only friend, most likely. But she likes him and defends him when he's being bullied by Scion and his goons, the antagonist classmate here. Because she thinks he's hardworking, he's determined, he's kind, and he doesn't deserve to be treated badly just because of him not having magic. He has other redeeming qualities. And I suppose that makes sense because, as they somewhat explain, Colette is a noble, but apparently a noble in name only, so I assume her and her family are used to being ridiculed and looked down upon themselves. So because of that, Colette probably has some sort of feelings that are not super fond of the other noble classes, or just generally people looking down on others based on their station or the lack thereof. And that's why she has this familiarity and friendship with Will to an extent. We do also get a very slight waifu moment when Will calls Colette cute, but sadly that ship is probably not going to sail because our main character here already has the hots for the childhood friend, so that is going to be a tough one to overcome, Colette, but good luck with that. But yes, at the core of Will's character is just this unrelenting want to become this Magia Verdia, this high-ranking mage, to be in the tower, because he wants to see his childhood friend again, Elfia, who made this rank at the earliest age in history. And he just wants to face her again and sort of be beside her again, because that's what he promised to do, and that's what he will be doing, no matter the cost or the effort, whatever else needed to get there. Which, of course, makes sense of why he's even trying to do so, because if he didn't have this sort of motivation to get there, being a no magic user in a magic academy, in a magic country, in a magic world, is kind of awkward and weird, right? But at least he has a good reasoning for trying to push through everything to get there. Kind of like Mashal in a sense, I guess. Just using anything else but magic to advance. We do also get introduced to this professor character, Vergner? I'm bad with names. He seems like a very interesting duality, though, to the other professor, Edward, who is definitely this elitist, sort of magic is everything type of character. While this professor is much more kind-hearted, understanding, and open to, I suppose, different viewpoints and strengths than just magic and magic power. And apparently he knows a lot about Will as well, as we have him explaining a lot at the end of the episode during the fight scene. Because Will, as I mentioned before, is probably the only one that really goes into the dungeon, or at least it seems so, before Sion and his goons go into the dungeon in the episode to try to take the credits away from Will for killing this specific monster that would end up making him fail and be thrown out of school, which is Sion's ultimate goal here. But overall, it seems that Will is the only one that goes into the dungeon because you need permission to do so, and that's not easy to come by, I assume, and it's a very dangerous place where you can just die. But Will just keeps doing it because he is, well, clearly strong. He is a good fighter, he's a warrior, and we do learn why exactly he is so powerful in the fight, even without magic. And that is when our teacher, Wagner, here, at the end of the episode, explains to the elitist teacher, Edward, that, hey, he is, he's a warrior. He's like an outlier. I guess a mutant in a way. He has superhuman strength, like superhuman build and dexterity and just resilience and observational skills. Basically, he's a superhuman. But because of that, he has no magic as his debuff, I suppose, in that case. But because of this superhuman strength and abilities, he's able to defeat this Minotaur-esque looking monster that he comes across in the dungeon, trying to save Sion and his goons, though I guess his goons were already punched to bits, which was nice to see that characters actually can just die that easily. At least I assume they're dead. They look pretty dead. But when it comes in to save Sion from this beast, because Sion's magic does nothing to it, even though Sion is supposedly this really talented, strong mage at his age. I do like how they represent Will's character in the moments before he intervenes with this monster, before it kills Sion, when he's just helplessly trying to use magic over and over again to do any damage to it, thinking, hey, this guy has bullied me all my life, basically, since I came to school. He's a dick. He's a bastard, really. Like, why should I save him? Can't I just let him die and just walk away? And if it was only for himself, he probably would have walked away. But because of his childhood friend and how she viewed him to be kind, brave, strong, etc., he wants to live up to her expectations and wants to face her with his head held high. And that is probably what pushes him to actually intervene in this case and save this douchebag of a antagonist schoolmate. And I do like that idea that they draw on there, that for humans, especially men in this case, a lot of what men do is tied to expectations by others, especially family and friends and loved ones. It's like, if I don't do this, how can I face XYZ? Like, how can I face my wife? How can I face my parents, my father, my mother, if I don't do this? How can I come back to them with my head held high, my back straightened up, if I make these choices now? And in that sense, not really making these choices, and in this case, not Will making this choice because he himself might want to do so, but because of the expectations that others have of him and how he wants to be able to face his close ones, and in this case, his childhood friend, while maintaining his honor and feeling like he has done everything he can to be the type of man she believes him to be. So that I give a thumbs up to, for sure. Now, it does definitely seem that the elitist teacher Edward, after seeing through this magic orb that Wagner has in his office, showing that, oh, no, you don't need to rescue Sion because Will is on the same floor as him in the dungeon, so he'll take care of anything that comes up. And then, of course, showing this elitist teacher Edward how powerful Will is in this boss fight, which was very well animated. Once again, have to say that. Very well animated, that fight. Really good. But yes, it seems that next episode, we'll have some sort of confrontation between Edward and Will, and probably Will having to showcase his skill with the sword, because apparently, because he is so powerful, his sword strikes are faster than lightning, which is impressive, and apparently it can just be used against magic and sort of power through it, or like, I don't know, slice it in half, or anyhow, just overpower it, or fight it, I guess you can say, which we will see more of next episode, I am sure. Anyhow, though, my first impressions are very positive about this show. I really like the start here. The world feels vibrant, the world feels alive, I feel immersed into the world. They've done a great job with the world building and how it's animated, the style it's made in, the fitting music, the fitting atmosphere. A lot of the shots look great, and the character models look unique and fitting to this world. And everything is really comes together into making this cohesive, immersive world that I can very, very much enjoy so far. And the animation as well is definitely very good quality, very much high tier, especially the fight scene. Once again, super well animated, definitely borderline movie quality, and really a immersive fight to see. And if the animation for fights are going to be this good moving forward for the rest of the season, that'll be very, very enjoyable to watch every single time, I have to say. And yes, as I believe I mentioned earlier, I believe this is the same author as Danmachi. At least that's what I saw in many places when I was looking up on this. And if that is correct, then I think I'll have a good time with this, because Danmachi, while I have my ups and downs with that show, is something I do still enjoy overall decently much as a sort of fantasy. Anyhow, again, have very high hopes for the rest of the season. Very strong start for me with episode 1, and hopefully you think so too. Anyhow, what are your thoughts on episode 1 of Wistoria here, or Wistoria? God, mixing up names. Why did it have to be so similar? Wand and sword? Leave all those comments down below, or anything else on the video, or my commentary here, my thoughts. That being said, hope you have a good day, keep watching anime, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.